The morning show here on Arise News. The Oba of Benin has waded into the heated political atmosphere in Edo State. With his intervention, the governorship candidates of the two major political parties in the state have committed to peaceful elections on the 19th of September. Arise correspondent Iyobosa Uwugiaren reports.
I have been worried. I've been worried right from the time the conflict started between Comrade Oshomole, the former governor, and Incumbent governor, His Excellency God Obaseki.
Another attempt at reconciliation between Edo State Governor God Obaseki and his predecessor Oshomole about the Oba of Benin. This conflict has gone on for over 2 years with no clear reason, but it appears to be the genesis of the violence that has dominated the campaigns in the build-up to the September 19 governorship election.
We are not behaving in Edo State, properly. We are calling in people to come and laugh at us. Do you want people to laugh at us? Huh? Philip, they say you are the tough one inside. You must behave.
The governorship campaigns by the two major political parties have become acrimonious. Each party is accused of attacks and counterattacks and uncomplimentary remarks viewed as signs of desperation by the candidates to outdo each other. The Oba of Benin is worried that Edo State may once again become the city of blood.
I actually admire former President Jonathan for his humility, for his gentlemanliness, the gentlemanly way of he handled the 2015 election. If we can borrow a leaf from that, let us have peace. Everybody is scared. Everybody is afraid that the whole place is going to go up in flames. Then if it goes up, where will you now be? You will run to Bodo-Ibo. You go and stay you are going to stay here. Your home is here. Your parents are here. Your family is here. If you want to burn up everywhere because of election, why must it be election crazy?
The election is only a few days away, but the commentaries coming out of the state suggest things may get worse. The Benin monarch wants the narrative to change. He's extracted a commitment from the candidates that the state will be peaceful from this point forward.
I will not participate. I have never participated. I will never participate in violence, particularly as it affects the people I'm governing. I will never. I have never. And to just put it on record that I have no problems whatsoever with my brother, Ize-Iyamu.
We on our part pledge to ensure from our supporters, our followers, that they conduct themselves peacefully throughout the campaign and during the election. We are going to talk to them. We are going to pass this message that we have been giving. And every campaign we do henceforth, we are going to spend some time to also talk to all of them about the need to keep to the peace.
This commitment is a first step in a series of dialogue expected to hold. The candidates will also be made to sign a peace accord in the coming days. Iyobosa Uwugiaren, Arise News.
Well, report of the peace meeting at the Oba of Benin's palace yesterday between the gubernatorial candidates in the Edo State September 19 election. Given the spate of violence that has thus far defined preparations for the election in large parts, many are already calling this latest development a rare glimmer of hope and something that should be further explored for the right kind of atmosphere for the people of Edo State to exercise their inalienable right in a little over 2 weeks from now. Joining us now to look at the significance of this and new expectations from the candidates and the people of Edo State is Iyobosa Uwugiaren, renowned journalist and editor, Nation's Capital, THISDAY newspaper. He's also a civil rights campaigner and an indigene of Edo State. Iyobosa, good morning and welcome to the morning show. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for joining us. Quickly, you must have seen that video that was shown of the peace meeting at the Oba of Benin's palace yesterday. What do you make of that development? Do you think we can now all be assured of the fact that the gladiators in the Edo State politics will sheathe their swords and give peace a chance and focus more on serving the people of Edo State and allowing them to make a free and informed choice on September 19?
Well, the intervention of the Oba of Benin, Oba Uwugiaren II, is timely and it's a welcome development. The Oba of Benin intervened at the point the political environment was almost at the melting point. And that, for me, is seen as a way, to douse the tension, the political tension in Edo State. Of course, you observe that in the last few weeks, both parties, the two major political parties who have participated in this election, I'm talking of the APC and PDP, have been accusing each other of violence, and that also encourage their followers, their supporters to also begin to attack one another. So the intervention by the Oba of Benin yesterday is a welcome development. Don't forget, the Oba of Benin is an ancestor. His words or his directives are seen as law that must be obeyed. And the fact that it's coming from the palace, it's coming from the Oba of Benin, I see it as, I'm sure that in the next few days, the narrative will change. It will change because God Obaseki and Pastor Ize-Iyamu, both of them are his subject. And once they give that commitment, they cannot afford to go back. So I'm very sure, I'm very convinced that in the next few days, the narrative will change. Don't forget also that yesterday when the governor was reacting, he gave his commitment. And Pastor Ize-Iyamu also gave his commitment, saying that henceforth in their campaign rally, they would devote most of their time, appealing to their followers, to the people of Benin, to imbibe the peace, that was brokered yesterday by the respected Oba of Benin. So I am sure that the narrative will change because the consequences of disobeying the directive of Oba of Benin is huge, especially among the Benin. So I see it as a welcome development. I'm sure the whole thing will change henceforth.
We'll watch the space and see what happens. But yesterday, the Oba chronicled the relationship between the incumbent and his predecessor. Even though the revered, monarch said he was sparing some information from public, what was most outstanding for you in that meeting that, took place over an hour dialogue? What was most outstanding for you? Well,
let me say that if you look at what has been happening since this campaign started, there is no personal issue between, for example, between Obaseki and Pastor Ize-Iyamu, or between Obaseki and Adamu Shomole. It is just a political difference, political interest, that is responsible for what has been happening in Edo State. So yesterday it was an attempt by, or is a deliberate plan by the Oba of Benin, to appeal to them that there will be life after office, and that everybody from that state, there is no foreigner in that state. So whether you win the elections or whether you lose the elections, all of them will still remain as brothers, as sisters. So there was no need for them to begin to fight because of election. And don't forget, yesterday the Oba specifically told the governor, I said, look, rather than seeing the election as a do or die affair, think about your life after office. And for me, that was very instructive. And he also appealed to Pastor Ize-Iyamu along that line. So I think the message is that whether you are contesting elections or whether you want to be governor or not, there is life after political office. And they should see themselves as brothers, as sisters, those who are participating. I'm talking of the major actors in this election, should see themselves as brothers and sisters. For me, that is the most important things that the message that the Oba of Benin passed to both parties yesterday.
I hear they will be signing a peace accord in the coming days. I wanted to know the veracity of that. And while the Oba was speaking, he particularly, mentioned the deputy governor.
Yeah. Yeah, you are right. For many, for those of us who have been monitoring the elections or what is happening in Benin in the last few weeks, people say the deputy governor, Shoaib, as the main actors, on the part of the political, on the part of People's Democratic parties. Don't forget that he has appeared on so many national so many national televisions, including Arise, where he was threatening that he's ready to match violence for violence if care is not taken. He has also accused Oshomole of arming himself with thugs. Arming his thugs with guns with the intention to unleash that during on election day. So many people see the Shoaib, the deputy governor, as the architect of what is happening in PDP against the APC. So I was not surprised yesterday when Oba specifically called him out and tell him to take it easy, and that election is not a do or die, and that there will be life after he leaves office as deputy governor.
The peace accord said in the coming days, well, is that going to be another ceremony on its own? Do they have to sign it, or the one they've done with the Oba is enough?
Well, the peace accord, like you rightly know, will be organized by the INEC and the civil society group. But the most important one was the one that happened yesterday. Of course, we have experienced several elections in this country where, even in spite of the peace accord, there will still be violence on election day. For me, what happened yesterday is the most important thing that I've ever said in an attempt to appeal to the electorate, in an attempt to appeal to the candidates and their followers, to let peace reign during and after the elections. So, like I said, Oba of Benin is seen as an asset by the Edo State, especially among the Benins. So it will be difficult for anybody. Not to obey his directive or his instructions. The other one is just a mere ceremony. But the most important thing is what happened yesterday at the Benin Palace.
But Iyobosa, two quick things. The first one, will you consider the meeting that took place at the Oba's Palace yesterday inclusive enough, considering the fact that there are 15 political parties involved in this forthcoming gubernatorial election, and we just have only the candidates of the two major political parties being invited to a meeting? Does it mean that there is no threat from other candidates that are part of this process? And then you keep referring to the Oba as the ancestor. I recall that the last time this thing about an ancestral spirit was brought to the public domain in Benin, some ancestral artifacts that we were told had not even been brought out in the sun for 400 years were brought out, and priests, came out and they gave directives to armed robbers and kidnappers in Edo State that, this is what will happen if they try it again. And since that time, the crime level went down. And I know a number of Edo people who say, yes, the ancestral spirits came out. Some people are saying maybe the Benin Palace should go to that extent so that we can be sure, because people don't trust politicians. Those are the two issues.
You are right. First, Ruben, let me remind you. I'm sure if you're asked to name the other candidates who are contesting in this election, I'm sure you'll not remember their names. They've not been campaigning. We don't even know them. So the two major parties that are involved in these elections, they are the ones that are also orchestrating this similar violence that the Oba referred to yesterday. I'm talking of the PDP and the APC. other candidates that can't even remember their names. They are not, as a matter of fact, they are not campaigning. So we don't even know them. So I was not surprised when it was only the PDP and APC candidates and their followers that were invited to the palace yesterday. And they are the major actors in this election. As for that, yeah, I keep on referring to the Oba of Benin as an ancestor. Yeah, he is. Because you remember the issue of trafficking, human trafficking. It was very pronounced in Benin until the Oba of Benin also intervened. As I speak to you now, I'm sure if you go to Benin, you will notice that that human trafficking, that kind of criminal activities has drastically reduced, if not totally forgotten, in the Benin city. Yes, there are people who are not from Benin. We have so many visitors, those who reside in Benin, who are from other part of the states. So if there are still some pockets of criminal, in spite of what Oba said in the past, it might be seen that those who are not familiar with the culture, who are not familiar with the consequences of disobeying the Oba of Benin's directive, maybe they are the one who are still perpetrating these things. But I can tell you that there is no Benin man, that will listen to the Oba giving directives or instructions, and you will disobey. It is the consequences of being referred to as Ogyomba in the Benin language. That means the enemy of Benin is very huge. So nobody wants to be referred to as the enemy of Oba of Benin. So, and that is why when Oba gives directive or instructions, as Benin, we are bound to obey. Ruben, let me also tell you that among the Benins, among the people of Edo State, after God, the next person is the Oba of Benin. So you can see the influence of the Benin in our culture, in our tradition, So that is it.
Oba Tokwe.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, does this put any pressure, additional pressure maybe, on the incumbent governor? And I ask because yesterday he was trying to make a point that he's not just a candidate in the forthcoming elections, he's also the incumbent executive governor with the responsibility to protect lives and property. And he made, a reference to a security breach recently in the state where he said there was an attack on a house and the attacker was apprehended and locked in police custody. But he also got a call that the person had been released because there was pressure from above. And then the Oba responded yesterday in his wisdom to say, this is not about blame games. You're not going to go there. Just commit to me that, there will be peace. So how does the incumbent governor balance this out as the governor who is to protect lives and property and as a candidate in the forthcoming elections and ensuring that, everybody shits their swords?
Well, I think that's the difficulties that the Governor Obaseki is presently facing. One, as a governor, he needs to need to ensure that there is peace in his domain, in the state. And two, is his ongoing attempt to also mobilize his supporters for his re-elections. Politicians, when they are going to election, they see election as war. Everything must be employed to ensure that they win that elections. I think that is the message that the Oba of Benin, tried to pass yesterday. That yes, you are the governor, you have the responsibility to maintain peace and order. You have the responsibility to protect life and property in Benin. But the fact that the governor is also contesting election, he's seeing this election, the way I see it, as something that must be won by all means necessary. So in that regard, it is normal for him to employ all means, in ensuring that he's re-elected as the governor of Edo State. Now, let me also put on record that so far the police has not helped matters. For example, last week I was in Benin. I noticed that as a result of petitions written by the APC and by the PDP, so many of these miscreants who were involved with these criminal acts, violence, were arrested. And at the point the governor intervened, I'm talking of those members who were arrested, who were seen to be loyal to the PDP. the governor intervened and those guys were arrested. For example, in my own local government, the Orion local government, particularly in Uronigwe, 6 persons were arrested on the rumor that the governor was planning to go to that community, and those guys were planning to stone him. Well, that was the allegations. The police went there about last week and arrested those six boys, and they were kept in the state CID in Benin for almost about 5 days. So the candidate of the APC, Pastor Ize-Iyamu, had to also intervene, and at the end of the day, those people were arrested after spending about 5 or 6 days at the state CID in Benin. So it is neither here nor there. So the PDP, the APC, are involved in an attempt are involved in this the action that we see as that will lead to election violence. I mean, that will lead to violence, during the election. So both parties are guilty. But I think with the intervention of the Oba of Benin, the governor and Pastor Ize-Iyamu have a huge responsibility to go back to their followers, go back to their party members, and tell them the consequences of disobeying the Oba of Benin instructions or directive.
So I've got 2 questions.
So that at the end of the day, we'll have a peaceful election.
Okay. So I've got 2 questions. I want to know what changed between the last time they were in the Oba's palace. Because the last time these people were in the Oba's palace, it was a free-for-all. We heard about a skirmish in the Oba's palace, which was a desecration of the Oba's palace. And now, what changed? Because I'm sure these same people took their supporters to them with them to the Oba's palace this time around. But I want to know what changed. And secondly, there's another factor in that election. Anyway, Pastor Ize-Iyamu's wife said I should not mention his name, that he's not a factor in the election. That's Adams Oshomole. He was there too yesterday. And some people are saying that's the real meat, in all of this fight. What's your take on him? Because he too, as we commiserate with him on the attack of his convoys and the loss of those 2 police officers, he too is a major stakeholder in all of this.
Now, let's go back to the incident that happened in the palace when the PDP organized their rally in Benin. I think it was an issue of protocol. Because that day, the Oba of Benin was celebrating the naming ceremony of the prince. That was, and that was the same day that he celebrated his naming ceremony. So a very prominent Benin son, Capt. Osa, traditionally went there, to celebrate with the Oba of Benin. As he was going there, many of his followers went with him to the palace. So when they were going out and the PDP members, all the governors were coming to the palace for the courtesy call, those who follow Capt. Osa to the palace, started booing the governor and the members of the PDP who came to the palace for a courtesy visit. And that was actually what happened. It was not necessarily the fact that the APC went there to attack the PDP. So it was just a coincidence. I think the persons who mismanaged that was the protocol officers in the palace. Now, they should have given a timeline when the ceremony will end. The people who came there for the ceremony would have been out of the palace before they receive the PDP delegate led by the governor. So it was the protocol issues, that led to that crisis. It was not just that the APC went there to attack the PDP at the palace. So that is the issue. As for Oshomole, I think I agree with Professor Ize-Iyamu, the wife of the candidate of the APC. Don't forget, I think the way the PDP is trying to, frame their campaign, they frame it in such a way that as if Oshomole is contesting, is Oshomole that is contesting election against Governor Obaseki. Now, the reason why Oshomole is deeply involved in this campaign is the fact that he was immediate past national chairman of the APC. He is members of the APC. So he has a responsibility to help the candidate of the party, that is Pastor Ize-Iyamu, to win the elections. Whether we like it or not, Oshomole is still a major issue in the Edo State politics. It's still a major factor in the politics. So he has a responsibility to campaign for his party, to campaign for his candidate. At the end of the day, Oshomole has just one vote, like every other person. So I don't see Oshomole's involvement in this election as a major issue. Pastor Sage, like as far as I know, is not a novice in the politics of Edo State. He's well known to everybody. He's a grassroots politician. He has huge followers. So the fact that Oshomole is accompanying him, helping him to campaign, is not different from the fact that in the APC, for example, you also see Dan Obi, who was just about a few months ago the state chairman of the PDP, now campaign, who was attacking the Governor Obaseki when he was in the APC, now also leading the campaign of Governor Obaseki. You have other people who are there. You have Senator Ronald Owe, who is also campaigning. You have Senator Roy, who is campaigning. So why is Oshomole issue a big deal in the politics of Edo State? He has a responsibility to campaign for his party and campaign for his candidate, and by ensuring that his candidate win the next election. So it is also the same thing in the People's Democratic Party. So I think it is the deliberate framing of this election by the PDP that is responsible to what is happening to Oshomole. They believe that Oshomole made a very wrong decision by ensuring that Obaseki was not allowed to contest under the APC. Many people see, the reason why Obaseki was not allowed to contest election under APC was as a result of Oshomole's action, and many people are not happy with him, and they are framing it as if Oshomole is going for a third term. He's not. This election is between two major candidates, and that is Pastor Ize-Iyamu and Governor Obaseki. Both of them are well known to the people of Edo State. So at the end of the day, the people will be able to choose between the two candidates.
Well, thank you very much, Iyobosa Uwugiaren. We would have loved to discuss other issues, particularly the role of the police that you mentioned, and also the role of INEC. But there's still enough time to do all of that before September 19. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning.